Okay. Hey guys. Hang on, let me mute that so I don't hear that. Hey guys, I'm Weather from the Summer School Discord, and I'm here today to do another team review. This game I'm going to be following the blue side, and I'm going to be going over at the start of the game win conditions, and because that's something everyone should be considering whenever you're playing a comp. So the team you guys have drafted, you're trying to play into a hyper carry, but you have a hyper carry potential in Jax or in Kog'Maw. You have Skarner to be your engage, but he needs to have an ability to run at them. So depending upon what they draft, that could really be challenging to play late game. Orianna is also going to be wanting to look for some wombos and team fights. Honestly, I would say as an entire comp, this isn't very synergistic, if that's a word. But it does give you a bunch of different damage threats and windows to play into. Because split pushing Jax will open up a lot of windows compared to if you were just able to team fight with building around the hyper carry Cog and Orianna. You're going to be stuck with, if you're falling behind, pretty much no easy way to get back into it, because they'll be able to split you down, and you'll be trying to look for these team fights. But if you're far enough behind, you're not going to be able to pick them very easily. So the Jax being a split pusher was a good pick in reference to that. So 3 of your team wants to group, and 2 of your team is kind of off to the side slash niche. Skarner, as I said, has to run at someone. He's a lot better whenever he gets a pick off or if he gets a flank off. This is really vision reliant and like kind of jungle control reliant, because if you're running at someone in lane, it requires initial CC, and your team does not have any initial CC to set up for that. So the only way a Skarner is going to be useful is coming from behind. And you're not going to get too many options to do that without like complete jungle control. And that requires you to be ahead. So because your team has no setup for the Skarner, I think that the Skarner is really a kind of problem pick here. The enemy team has an Ornn to set up for really long-ranged engages and is really strong at split pushing and can probably match the Jax almost the entire game, if not the entire game. Jarvan has another, like 2 forms of engage. So their team has 3 ways that they can solidly engage on you guys, and then they got a good mix of damage and peel. Their team can play into your split push and very well because they have an Ornn who can match the Jax, and they have a Ryze who can beat out most side lanes too. The Ryze with his ultimate before they put in that Zhonya's change, I don't know if that actually went through or not just yet, but he can still ult out with Zhonya's, and that makes him a very strong split pushing threat just because he can 1v1 you, and if he can't 1v1 you, he ults away. The Jinx Janna is probably trying to just match the Kog'Maw damage potential. Now, if you're looking up Kog'Maw's stats, here's where things kind of get interesting. Kog'Maw actually has like the highest win rate in pre-25-minute games. That drops significantly as the game goes on. In a 40-minute game, Kog'Maw is like number 10. And these are stats that I pulled from somewhere, but you can go and look at yourself. It's probably changed slightly, but not that drastically. Kog'Maw is a mid-game AD carry. He's not an end-game AD carry. So what this does is this team comp that you've drafted gets outscaled. So even though you have a Jax to scale, even though you have an Orianna to potentially team fight, their team scales a little bit better, but your team has an incredible mid-game if you can use it right. Your mid-game relies a lot on getting that jungle control, and if the Jax is going to be splitting, which he probably is going to be splitting, because the team fights are comparable for both teams, and Jax probably wants to split to try and scale, Skarner's going to have to help him pretty early, because once the Ornn gets a couple items, it's not going to work. So I'm going to be doing this review for kind of the entire team and walking through what everyone kind of does in the first few minutes and stuff. I think that the first few minutes of the game are some of the most important. This is pretty good vision setup. The Lulu dancing around here after you put the ward is also fine. So you're not trying anything aggressive. You're playing very safe. This is a pretty good vision line, but it also is using resources. These wards that you put out, as I said, it was okay to do this, but this is going to spot them only if they invade, and this is a resource that you use. The only time I suggest warding things like this is if they already are invading and you see them, or if your team isn't watching for you. Whenever you put a ward specifically like this in the Tribrush, you deny yourself a resource of potentially a cheese gank. If you know that they're going to try and cheese gank you, which you know, they're probably not. But imagine if you put this ward out whenever you came to lane, right? Slightly different scenario, but it would defend you from that level 2 gank if it was a jungler that would do that. This is a small example of something that could have happened, but this ward, again, could have been easily the same amount of vision provided by just having someone sit in this bush. And there's nothing happening, right? And if they were coming, you would ward this and walk away, right? So it would be the same thing in the future, but it saves you a resource. I do otherwise like this vision line. This ward is pretty good because if you see them all trying to get to the Skarner thing, then you could try and play into that and start something if you really wanted to. It also gives you a little more control around this side of the map to see if they're going to invade or rotate or anything like that afterwards. It's this one I'm a little more fond of because it's river. It's deeper. Let me actually watch level 1 mid, and then I'll watch level 1 bot, and then I'll watch level 1 top. Huh. Okay. So taking shield on Orianna, I know a lot of people suggest doing that, but it's not really for this type of lane. This type of lane, shield isn't going to do that much. Now, why would you take shield, right? To trade autos. Well, if you saw what happened, he just walked away. You take shield when you're playing into a melee matchup where you take minion aggro. The only benefit that you got from this was essentially pulling the minion aggro. Whenever you pulled the minion aggro, it let your minions stack up a little bit more because for a while they were attacking you instead of your minions. By starting shield here, it shows me that you don't understand kind of how to adapt your abilities and your play style towards who you're playing against. A rise is something that if you are falling behind in wave clear, which you will fall behind in wave clear at level 2 because he'll be able to clear better with his, like, I don't know, blue spam, whatever his things are, you're going to be behind one ability to wave clear. You're also going to be behind one ability to effectively trade with him in a poke situation because you're not going to really go into his range to poke him with your shield. You shouldn't, at least. Not whenever you only have 2 abilities. And whenever you have 3, it's the same kind of thing. Whenever you have 1, you're accepting an auto for potentially having your shield eat up that damage. I don't like starting shield into a ranged matchup here, and you can see what happens, right? He has lost a total of 20 health at this point. And there's that damage. You could have done 20 damage worth to him with your Q, too. It's only in melee matchups that you would take that. And now you're going to fall behind in pushing because he has the ability at level 2 to outpush, which could help your jungler out or hurt your jungler. But he did deny himself level 2 for a little bit longer by not being on the wave. Okay. So not too bad, but I don't like your ability start. I got to watch that, and it saddened me. But it's not really your fault. It's partially unlucky, but yeah, unlucky. I'll just go with that. So, Lulu, you got to get on this wave. What you're doing is you're making sure that the enemy is going to get level 2 first if the enemy wants it. If you're ever playing into a melee matchup that has Targons, you'll probably always get out-leveled the way that you're playing. The Janna's also playing passive, but what if she started W and went to look into trade and stuff like that, right? Your positioning here is very bad to be trading aggression back. You also don't have your ward because you warded up here to potentially provide your lane control. And the Kog'Maw is in a position, so both of them could potentially trade onto the Kog'Maw, while if you even shielded him, right, that's the only thing you'd be able to do. But the Janna can shield too. So if they're just having two people autoing one person, he can only auto one, right? So that's just, no matter if you can shield him or not, autos do as much damage as abilities at level 1. Your positioning means that you're not looking to trade, your control of the minion wave means you're not looking for level 2, and your ward resources mean you're not looking for lane control at all. Just period. Not level 1, not positioning, not lane control. Your posturing, you're not even staying in the bushes. You're just standing out here where this doesn't matter at all. That's really bad positioning. Now, you guys could have rushed level 2 slightly ahead of them if you wanted to, because Janna also wasn't attacking. But this is an advantage you should be able to create, and you shouldn't ever have to give them. Do you see how the Kog'Maw's playing here? This Kog'Maw's partially playing this far back because of the way that the Lulu is posturing. However, this is unnecessarily safe as well. If you're following the jungle pathing, normally they'd already be topside around now. 2.5 minutes is whenever they probably are topside in a standard clear. You had no way to verify this is what they were doing because of your very safe start. But this is, again, since you don't have any vision, you have to play on assumptions. In professional play, you would be playing on a little bit deeper assumptions than this. But this is not professional play. So because of that knowledge that the jungler is topside, this is a 2v2 matchup. So there should be no reason that you have to be playing this far back and this scared. You can trade onto them. Yeah, you have the same items. You're the same level. Kog'Maw has really strong dueling potential. You both have shields, right? There's no reason to be playing like this. And this type of posturing, both as AD carry and support, is how you lose bot lane the most. Because then you're going to fall behind in CS because you can't stick on the wave. Then you're going to fall behind in harass because they can trade onto you whenever they want to, pretty much. Because whenever you do eventually come up to CS, you're CSing with your fucking abilities, and you're not going to be able to trade back. Whenever Kog'Maw's W is down, that's whenever you go in, and you're using it to CS because you're so scared. Part of the reason that the Kog'Maw's so scared, again, is because the way the Lulu is playing. Neither of you are playing up, and that is terrible. I remember watching a game earlier where the bottom lane crushed it. I don't know if that was the same game. I don't know if that was the same people. What happened? And as I said, I really like watching level 1 for every lane, so I'm going to top now. This is very respectful. You're both trying to keep get CS, but neither of you want to push it because that'll put you in kind of a vulnerable spot for level 3 ganks. Either you have to push hard enough to have it bounce, or you want to hardly push at all. The way that this is going right now, the Jax is able to get a little bit of lane control just due to the Ornn respecting him. By not trading at all, it's actually working the best for both of these melee laners. So this is exactly how I would have liked to play this lane. You didn't have a whole lot of advantage there, but that was a fine time to trade if you really wanted to look for a little bit of aggression. This wave should bounce soon, but by slowly pushing it at this point, when you know it's going to crash, this is starting to become risky. You do see the Jarvan over here, and he's kind of low. But by seeing the Jarvan over here, you know that means he also could have been over here. And if the Jarvan was over here and you were, pushing one more wave, that could have been problematic. I see you're backing off, and you already do know where the Jarvan is, so it's safe to be playing up a little bit. And I think that you would have taken Klepto, so all of that's totally fine. Did you take Klepto? I don't know. This is really bad posturing. Okay. I really like taking advantage of your time up here, Jax. This is a very, very good thing for you to be doing. Whenever you have this huge wave crashing, you know that you can't be playing aggressive into that because this is still at a dangerous window for topside. What you're doing here is pretty damn excellent, actually. I would have liked to see Skarner coming up to help you because that way you could not only look to ward this, but you could look for an aggressive play afterwards. Also, I don't think that you knew. Oh, you did know. You did know he did Raptors. Never mind. But this secures your aggressive style. So this is a very, very good move of you by you. Again, Skarner should have been coming up here. He could have forced the Jarvan off of that and gotten the camp, stolen the camp. Instead, the Skarner is walking down here, and there's nothing even to get over here. Skarner, you need to work on your team play and your communication. Because do you see what happens? Way from back here, if you had communicated after this gank that didn't happen, right? Jax says, let's go into their jungle. This is when the play happens, and this is when the decision is made where you say, I'm just going to go farm. Right? This means you're not watching the map because Jax has already started to move towards doing this play. And as the jungle, you need to be the one who's basically thinking the most. Jungling is the most demanding position because tracking like this and knowing what to do with it should basically be the jungler's idea and job. Everyone else is having to worry about their lane. The jungler has to worry about the map, right? So start worrying about the map. What do you do when the Jarvan's up here? You obviously, as a team, have an idea that he's still up here. There's a chance he's still up here. You also have this huge wave that's crashing where if Jarvan wasn't here, maybe there's even a dive potential. Probably not, of course, but it's just an idea. By going down here, you don't even have your wolves up. You're pathing all the way down to golems on your side of the map. Means you don't have very good pathing. You try to force this gank like 3 times, and after you didn't get anything the first couple of times, you could have just looked for your second play. Right? Need some pathing, need some communication. This was a wonderful ward, Jax. However, you did just see Jarvan up here, so I would have been a lot more careful with pushing up for a little while. You also did see that he was really low at that point, so if you did get a chance to glance over, that would have been okay to start playing up a little bit. I'm going to watch the mid lane gank attempts a couple of times. I love that ward too. However, you did have time to go even deeper than this if you wanted to. This is where you could have warded his raptors, like up here. It would still catch a lot of the same things that this ward would catch. This ward catches river too, which could be beneficial. If Jarvan really wanted to, he could do a cheeky play over like this. So this is a safer ward. This gives you more aggressive knowledge, which knowing what your team does later, it would have been a little bit helpful because you end up putting an aggressive ward over there. But this is a safer ward, so I'm not upset with this ward. But this, if your team had a plan, would have been a good ward to get. Could have even scared Jarvan off of his own jungle. Okay, so your positioning here, I don't like either. You're going for the wave, but you're also further away to collapse on this if you wanted to. I would have been looking to collapse on this. Again, this is a team communication thing. Right here, right? How long until you actually see the Jarvan, right? You see him here. And what needs to be done with this wave right now? Essentially nothing. It's not going to push into you too fast. And if you started walking over here, right, Jarvan would have started walking down. But if you waited like 2 seconds and then you see what he's doing over here, now you start going over, you're probably definitely going to blow his flash because Skarner's got a stun and a slow. But because there's no team play going on, Skarner goes for Scuttle and Jarvan walks away with like a third life. And by your positioning, this guy, the Ryze, was on the faster response route. He was ready to walk over there while you were only ready for CSing. Not only that, but you're standing straight on your minions, which lets him bounce that. So your positioning in lane is not very team-friendly, and it is not using your minions correctly. Or rather, avoiding your minions. You're letting him use everything he wants. You can generally tell where they have vision of you by the way someone's playing. It was pretty obvious that he had vision of you. I don't remember when he gets it out. Yeah. So they saw you coming up on this ward, and then he got another ward. So they 100% know you're here. And you dance around this for a while and you waste more time. Whenever someone's playing back like that, if you have any, recognition of their style, which as the jungler sometimes you can't know that, but as a laner you definitely should be able to recognize it. As the laner, you could have pinged back the Skarner after the Ryze started playing back, and it would have definitely saved some time here. Would have started looking for the next play. So again, there's very little team play in this game. There's that 6 CS lead, right? 6 CS is 100 gold. That is, if they get the right recall, the difference between you getting, recurve bow and them getting BF. You guys are so scared. And yeah, Skarner, you waste so much time this game. You path down here after you failed this gank attempt, right? You path all the way down to the other side of the map without doing a single camp. That's a terrible path. That's a terrible path. You're gonna fall behind in gold and XP, and you're also on not doing anything with it. You're not getting anything for this. You need to be watching the waves before you even look into this. I don't really like that TP. I'm pretty sure you could have walked back to lane. Might get you an advantage, though, because the Ryze feels he has to recall here. And then he swaps the TP too. Okay. Why are you guys playing that far back? You could look into that. You know that the Ryze just TP'd and was over here. You know the bot lane was over here and it was just the Jarvan. And you're playing so safe. There are no... The only proactive play that I've seen is this ward. Everything else has been you guys running away from them. Bot lane running away. Mid lane not even looking to go in on the Jarvan, right? Not even looking to go on the Jarvan over here. Starting shield and looking for autos is just something different. That's not even about the proactive play. But none of this is proactive. There is very little strategy going on here. You guys are just kind of rolling over. And if you were tracking the Jarvan, by being down here, they still should know where you are. And again, you waste more time, Skarner. Skarner, you waste so much time this game. And if you're talking about like looking for ganks, right? You really want to gank stuff. Well, you need to be picking your ganks better, right? Whenever you were sitting bottom, that wave was in no way a position for you to gank. Whenever you were over here, you recognized that the Ryze had that warded and you stuck around looking to gank it. When truthfully, out of all of these plays, honestly, your best option was that dive that I said wasn't a good idea up here. And I think that was not a good idea. I don't think that you should have done that. But that was a better option than like what you were looking for down here. You're not playing a champion that can engage those things. You need to come from behind. You need to come from behind. And the only CC that they have to set you up is like maybe a Lulu slow over here, maybe an Orianna slow. You came with her ult that she kind of missed. But at least Jax can stun. And at least with Ornn, you know, he was already half life and he didn't have any tank items yet. Wait until he uses abilities on the wave to clear it and then go in on him. But truly, the biggest problem is your pathing. You put yourself behind for no reason, and you're on the wrong side of the map for no reason. Neither of you auto them at all. Do you see like windows that present themselves? I don't think you do, but I'm going to point out a window, right? Here. If Janna steps up to this coin, right? When Janna steps up to this coin, look at how the positioning goes. Jinx is way back here, and Janna's up here. Do you know what this range is? This is essentially Vayne's range, right? This is Vayne's auto attack range. And you guys back away from the Janna. When you can look in to auto attack the Janna and do some damage in this lane. Do you see how they're both full health? There is absolutely no trading going on down this lane, which means you're both waiting to scale. And as I said, you get outscaled. You do. Kog'Maw is a mid-game champion. So if you're just waiting to get to mid-game, great. But you need to have something to play off of. And if there's no advantage, then there might be an advantage somewhere else on the map for the enemy team. In a solo queue mentality, you need to be doing everything you can to create these small leads. And in fact, you're 10 CS behind with the way you're playing. So this isn't giving you a lead. This is putting you behind. So you just saw the Jarvan half-life in his topside jungle. Skarner, I would go and I would invade the blue buff. Or, Skarner, I would do your red buff and then do dragon. You have your window here to be making something happen. Because you just saw a half-health Jarvan. Here he is, how slow he is, right? Do you see how you did this buff? Look where the Jarvan is right now, right? You could have done his blue buff and been gone by the time he got to his blue buff. That would have also meant you would be level 6 and he would not. Oh, but by the way, your pathing earlier denied you level 6 at this point. You need 6. So you put yourself so far behind with your pathing. And then you're up here. And you see what they do with their time? That's really bad pathing. And I'm sorry if I'm flaming some people more than others. Honestly, I don't play a whole lot of top lane myself, so that's why I'm pretty much ignoring this matchup. I could I could complain a lot if you were playing Akali or something, because that's the only top lane I really play. But this ward was good, and mid lane this ward was good. But again, I'm sorry if I'm ignoring top lane, and the only thing I really have talked about mid lane is ability start, and I've commented a little bit about how you missed your ult. Um, this is really unusual positioning or bad positioning right now. You're playing really hard toward the top side of the map, where if you're tracking Jarvan, Jarvan should be on the top side of the map. Should be. Well, he's not, but he should be. Because after they did Dragon, he would have recalled and been going top. He did a camp first. If you were playing towards that side of the map because you had more vision, your vision wasn't deep, so you wouldn't have really been able to see him coming anyways. He would have come over this wall after you were rooted, and he would be 6 probably, so then he would have been able to ult you. Again, I don't know why Jarvan's a level behind, but junglers should be 6 after their third buff. Unnecessary turret hits. Good flash, good gank over that. That was your first proactive play as a team. And you both hit your ults. Nice. You took like 4 turret hits here though, and that means you can't siege. If you hadn't taken those 4 turret hits, you could be looking for the next play, and your next play probably would be coming up here. You realize that you had just pretty much gotten control of this river, right? There's a pink ward here. You guys just did scuttle, and you have seen that Jarvan and the rest of the team was getting control bottom, so you know that they can't have vision control on the top side of the map. Because you took so much unnecessary turret damage, you can't look for this. Also, Skarner, by going down bottom without ult, I highly doubt you're going to get any of this with the way that this lane is going. Yeah, I don't think that anything's going to happen down here. After you kill Ornn, which you could do and save Jax's life after that play, you could then potentially be even looking for Herald depending upon teleport usage. However, Ornn still has TP, so you wouldn't be able to do it right now. um, yeah, if I'm gonna take a second and say, if you want like a review where I talk to you about like aggression and stuff like that, I'm more than happy to help you with talking about aggression. I went over it slightly here and I pointed it out as a problem, but that's not really helping you improve, right? Actually, here, let me just go into some of it. To train yourself to start being aggressive, you're going to have to look for windows. Because obviously you don't want to just go in blindly, right? You want to have kind of controlled and smart aggression. So you win the trade, right? What advantages are there? Well, I know I talked about some of these earlier, and I talk about them a lot, but I want to make it feel like you're not wasting your time, so I want to make sure you understand these things. Um, there are 3 major windows you want to look for when trading, and they're to train you to start looking to play aggressive. The first thing you want to look for is hang on. The first thing you want to look for is cooldowns. If you just use your W as Kog'Maw, for example, you don't want to trade. If Janna just used her shield and it's off cooldown, like it's no longer on her, but it's just not usable, shield isn't there anymore, then you do want to trade, right? It makes sense. Little obvious windows. But how do you create those windows is a little bit different. You play aggressive a little bit, you bait aggression and stuff like that to get out these skill shots or whatever. But you are Wing the wave, so you are putting yourself in a vulnerable spot, right? You are opening up that first window to be traded on. Okay, there's the first window. The second window you want to look for is resources. Things like this could be a summoner spells, wards. It could be sustain, where you have talking about potions, where you're talking about I took fleet footwork and you didn't. My support can heal, mana. All of these things kind of go into whether or not you trade. If you trade and you have heal, you know you have all-in potential. If they don't have heal, and they really don't. So they're going to want out of that fight, which generally means it's more in your favor. If they do take the all-in, you're probably going to win because you have 200 more effective health, right? A resource of health, right? Mana, health, potions, health, fleet footwork, health, all of that is resources. Right now, again, the second window, you are vulnerable to be traded on because they can all-in you, so you can't look to trade. They can always get one more auto attack than you can just because they're willing to stay for it because they can kill you. So that's the second window that you've given them, right? These are two windows already that you have provided to them. The third thing is regarding minions, and this branches out into a bunch of different things. Firstly, whenever the enemy is going to last hit, that is a window that they have to make a decision whether or not they're going to last hit or they're going to attack you. If they're going to attack you, they miss the minion. You create this lead that adds up. You're 30 CS behind because you're too afraid to be on the wave. Because if you go up to auto-attack the minions, they'll auto-attack you. The freest window to get those trades is whenever you're going to auto-attack a minion. Now, sometimes people are just blindly pushing the wave. And whenever you're just blindly pushing the wave, that's the same thing as last hit window, and you can go for that free auto-attack. But that's the second window, third window. But this, again, branches. Another way you want to look at this is to train yourself to be aggressive. Whenever these minions, like for your team rather, with the ones you need to last hit, there's nothing for you to last hit, start posturing aggressively. Start playing aggressive. Bait out their shields. Bait out their positioning so that they walk away. Train yourself to play aggressive there. That's not really a window for you, but it's not really a window for them either. What it does is it shows them you are willing to trade. What it does is it creates some damage on them, so if a jungler ganks, you have more potential to kill them. What it does is it stacks up, so whenever you do take these correct windows, you have not only the first window or the second window during your third window, but you can potentially kill them, right? Resources, if you get those chip damages and then you look for, your first thing, they're more likely to just back off, lose the CS. Alright, another thing is whenever you take fights in minion waves, you want to count your minions to see if they chase you, right? If they pursue this fight, are they going to be fighting you in your minion wave? Because then you'll win. Generally, you'll win. Now, if you fight in their minion wave, like right here, right, you can't trade on them for yet another reason minion-related, because all of these will aggro onto you. So there are all three cases pretty much right here at play where you can't trade on them. This is exactly what happens whenever you start giving up these little advantages. They grow into more and more things happening and spiraling out of control. Whenever you're not willing to play a lane aggressively, this happens. So you need to train yourself to play aggressively. Another important thing is positioning. This is something that's only unique to bot lane, really. I do kind of call this out in mid lane where I'm talking about playing onto the other side of the lane. But in bot lane, another window is where your positioning is with relation to your support. Can two of you trade onto one person? Can two of them trade onto one person? This entire lane, it's had terrible positioning, not just with you guys, but also the Janna walking up for coins, and you guys haven't been punishing that. This fourth thing, again, is unique to bot lane. Positioning. Whenever the support goes to roam or ward or something like that, you go in for the free kill, right? Because they're alone. It's in smaller windows, but positioning like this is the same thing as roaming. Because you're not there to provide full assistance. Sure, you can shield, but you can't auto-attack. Auto-attacks are incredibly important. Especially if you fucking start the, Oh, you didn't start that item. But if you start the blue thing, it does bonus damage on... There's part of it, if you read it, it does bonus damage on auto-attacks. Like 13. But you started coin, so I guess that's not a huge deal. You just planned on not doing anything. Okay. That was low-key flame, but I'm playing around. I'm playing around. Coin's a great start if you don't plan on playing aggressively into the lane. But you should play aggressive into these lanes. Again, it's not an excuse. You need to be playing aggressive into these lanes. And once you start looking for these windows, you can. Alright, there's my little rant over. This was a really good play. Even if you don't actually go for the roam, just doing this gave your bottom lane breathing room. Just by walking down there, gave your bottom lane breathing room. And it also, if they don't ward, like right, you clear this out somehow. Let's say your bottom lane wasn't this fucked at this point. You could clear out this ward and defend this Tribrush, and now they have to play further back. Because now not only can you roam, but Skarner could gank through this Tribrush together, right? So every time you leave Vision mid lane, they'll have to play back. This was a very good roam. Even though you don't get anything out of it, this was a great roam. And you don't lose anything is the biggest key here. All you did was create pressure for free. All of this is because of that roam. This entire wave, this healing that happens, the way that their lane is off, all of that happened from that roam. That was a very good roam, even though nothing came from it. Skarner, you waste so much time. You cannot play like this. Whenever you wait in a bush, every second you wait in a bush, think of it like this. You're waiting for your gank opportunity, right? But if you just show up at a better time, like you go do red buff while you're waiting, and then you come back mid, you're not wasting time. Think of every game you surrender at 15 minutes, and now break that up into all of these windows that you were just waiting, right? Every window besides that, right? All of these games, like the time value of money, the earlier these things happen, the more impact they have. So you've probably waited around for a minute so far in the game, but because that's earlier on in the game, you've waited around or pathed incorrectly, like that time you were just running bottom lane, for probably the equivalent of 2 minutes of this game. Which means you have been AFK for 20% of this game. You've been disconnected for 20% of this game. And you can't do that. That's the reason you weren't level 6, which means you didn't have the opportunity to gank bottom. Right here, if you're just doing this, use your time to get deeper vision, right? If you're waiting for them, secure the gank. Walk up here and put your ward down. By the way, a totally different problem. Kog'Maw, you don't use your wards at all. You even have a pink ward, and you have 2 trinkets, and you haven't put anything down. They're using these bushes to harass you, and Janna's in here throwing her Qs and throwing her shields down, everything, keeping minion aggro on her whenever she goes into these bushes, and it sets up for ganks and stuff like that. You need to use your trinket, and it's so easy to put down. But yeah, you should be using this opportunity to get something else. If you have this trackers, then you should probably have a ward left on it. And if you don't, then you're warding at useless places. Like, this ward is only good for stealing. There's no reason to have this down now. They even have it pinked. That does nothing. You're only going to gank this if you have flash, and then you don't have any other gank potential. You needed one auto attack. You gave up that kill by trying to Zhonya's, and you Zhonya's after his entire combo. That was a terrible Zhonya's. And you let that kill get away. Now they're going to TP back to lane, so you need to push this and recall quickly. Skarner should have stayed to help push that. If they don't TP back, this would also be a window for Skarner to come behind. Taking the blue buff, this is another good proactive play you could do right now because he shouldn't be able to contest you since you're full life. So getting this vision, right? This was good, but also kind of bad. You're doing this to track him, and it's very proactive tracking, and I do appreciate this a lot. But really what should be happening here is the Orianna should be going to do something like that. And you should be using this opportunity not only to be putting this ward down, right? But communicating again more with your team so that the Skarner might be walking over here. And that way you can force the Jarvan off this buff too. You could probably take this. This wave is pushed in. Orianna's full life, has a good amount of mana, has ultimate, and can walk over here. So what happens again is there's no follow-up for this vision. This vision, if you don't do anything with it, it doesn't do anything for you. And you do later even see the Jarvan down here, right? You see the Jarvan down here, but it's too late to do anything with this, just because you've already left. How easy would it have been for you to take this right here? They're valuing the dragon, obviously, but if you take this and then you come top and you kill the Ornn, and you have 3 people, you get first tower for dragon. This is, again, miscommunication, which the reason I'm talking so much about team play and team reviews is because this is your job as a team to be communicating these ideas and working together. If you're not doing that, you're playing solo queue. Team play needs to be working together, and this was just a Jax solo thing. It's good vision, but you don't do anything with it. That wave that you pushed in was great, but you didn't do anything with it. And you had time to do something with it. And you once again are given another opportunity to make something happen. And you're going to get blue buff, which isn't a huge problem. Again, though, you're conceding dragon, and you're not going to get anything out of it at this point. Because now you have to return middle, because this wave's going to be coming back soon. And Ornn is going to be coming back top with full health, and he's going to be able to catch this wave on a turret. You know? There's nothing that can happen now. See how this happens, right? You guys do decide to do this play, but this is like 2 minutes after when I said to do it. This is no longer a play that's free because they've already gotten what they wanted, right? And now they could be maneuvering to the next thing. When 3 people show up top like this and they have nothing left to do over here, what stopped them then from, at their full health, going mid and taking mid turret, or going bot and taking bot turret, or fucking both? This play was really late. And even though it works, it was late. Because now they're going to trade. Now you trade turret for turret. And you also trade kills. See? This right here is an example of that opportunity cost, right? You were trading a dragon earlier, but instead you decided to trade a turret and kills for a turret and a kill. That's not good. because now they're going to keep pushing, and you can't stop them. Even if all they did was rotate mid. Yeah, 2 turrets. See? Can't do that. Can't do that. Way too slow with that play. Means you guys are not looking at what you can do on the map soon enough. You came up with that plan literally 2 waves at least too late. And you guys are way too scared to even go out anywhere on the map. Right here, Skarner, you need to be going down to this wave and pushing it in, because otherwise they're just going to siege down mid. Your team at this point can't team fight because the Kog'Maw, which is your mid-game power really, is behind, and their Jinx is super far ahead. If you go into a team fight like this, you're relying entirely on the Orianna ultimate, and the Jax just wants to split, which isn't a problem. But again, that's not part of your team fight. So in order to play into the Jax, you need to be working with waves. Right now, instead of taking Scuttle, you need to work with this wave. Force it in so they cannot siege mid. Otherwise, they're just going to siege mid. Oh, they're rotating? This is a good team fight to take. This is a very good team fight to take. I don't know why they positioned exactly the way that they did here, but you guys did a great job collapsing on this. The moment Orange shows bottom is when you guys really take this fight, but even before that happens, this is free at this point. Because the Janna, again, this is that window of positioning, right? This is the same thing as roaming. This is the same thing as being AFK. You guys see Skarner flanking, right? Flanking. Jax cutting off another route. This is an excellent team fight in every way. Orange shows bottom. You know you can take this. You didn't have to do that, Orianna. It was fancy but unnecessary, and you wasted flash. You're not going to be able to follow up these kills now. If you had flash, you would have gotten that one too. Overstaying for that means, again, there's no communication to whether or not you guys are going for kills, or you're going for turrets, or you're going for anything else. No communication. Now you guys can't successfully siege mid because their advantage is much less. You no longer have someone who is willing to dive. So now you guys are just letting Jax potentially get some damage up top, but also Ornn free farm and free farm mid. Letting the Jinx respawn. That's all you're doing. Free farm, free farm, free farm, and respawn. Your advantage is lost. That is all because of a miscommunication. Unnecessary flash by Orianna. It was a good team fight though. A very good idea to take that. You guys need to hard push bottom to get people to return bottom. Kog'Maw ideally would stay down here right now for about like 2 waves, because if the Ornn comes, then even that's fine, but the Ornn's way up here right now, so you have at least 2 waves you can stay for that. Your idea is to make the enemy AD carry as, forgive me when I say this, as useless as you are at this point, by making them have to constantly respond to this wave, or by taking this turret. Kog'Maw is a good teamfight champion, but right now you're not going to contribute as much to a teamfight as the Jinx is just by how far behind you are. You're recalling by not paying attention to the map. Right here you have 3 people mid, and the Ryze was just here. The Jarvan, you know, you are potentially worried about the Jarvan, but if you're watching the map, he's going up top and now is fighting Jax. This is your window to be taking turret damage and potentially even taking this turret depending on what happens mid. See, 5 people mid, nothing happening bot. You were just there, and now you're recalling to show up to a team fight that you're going to be too late to. You're not watching the map. That's an aggressive pink ward, and it's going to die soon. You guys can't take a fight right yet. And because you guys manage the wave like this, hard pushing it but not pushing it all the way in, it's going to bounce to you really hard in about a minute and a half. And that means you're going to have to respond to it in a minute and a half, and that's going to be whenever their enemy team's going to go to Baron. They're either going to go and they're going to kill whoever's bottom, or they're going to go in Baron. Either way, since you are only at inhibitor turret, it's a loss for you guys. This is really poor wave management. So the only option you guys have right now is if you were ahead enough to, siege this out and force someone to recall so that way it's even, or you're going to do Baron right now and you can't. You can't do Baron right now. Again, this idea, right? This is just not planning. This is not planning. This is not looking at the map. Jax going down there now is actually a really good idea because this is going to be in a terrible spot, and I don't know if he knew that or not, but potentially he's just trying to get the turret and Baron control at the same time. Very good idea for him to be going bottom. Yeah, but you guys had no vision down there because you put it all on Baron. You needed to take a side step back in order to stun that. You need to be faster about that redemption. I know you were in range sooner than that. Your team fight is collapsing really terribly right here. You guys don't have vision in this, and you're pathing very aggressively down the river. The Lulu is pathing the safe way and the smart way where you guys had vision. And you don't even want this fight because Kog'Maw is getting something while this is happening. So you just want to bait them into this chase and not give them anything. But because of this pathing, again, pathing, you're looking for the Janna, right? Right? How often is Janna alone? And Ryze can even TP to this, right? So Ryze TP is over here, and you are not going to save the Jax in this scenario, right? Jax is not going to save you, so they're going to both start looking up. So essentially, you're very easily flanked here within your vision. Within your vision. And Janna has her shit still, so it's not like this is a pick. And now it's too late to get out. Oh, it should be. Getting out there is fine too, I guess. That was very unnecessary pathing, though. I stand by that. And again, you don't have a way into these fights. As Skarner, you just don't. This team comp doesn't have a way into these fights. It's like a Lulu Whimsy, which uses one of your best team fighting abilities to just engage. You risked a lot just to take a dragon when you didn't need to. If you're counting over here, someone did recall. Ryze recalled, so that's why they're being really safe here, right? Ryze is over here. So you do know you don't have a numbers disadvantage, but you're taking a lot of health damage. And then you still miss it. Ulting the Jarvan's actually a pretty good idea here. Unnecessary ult. Ulting the Jarvan was good because if you were communicating cooldowns, you knew he did not have his ult, so he was a pretty free kill. However, you're going to have trouble getting something after that. The only thing I really think you could do is be trying to bait out Baron or do Baron right now. Because with the way that the Jax has TP, right? So if Jax based and then TP back, you guys have Kog'Maw. This would have been a way to force a fight where you had a numbers advantage. Orianna Ultimate could have won you this fight too. This is definitely your Baron opportunity. You decide instead to siege mid, which is not working, by the way, and send Jax bottom, which is not working, by the way. I think that your Orianna ults are much too desperate. You're looking for these engages and these plays. You're playing Orianna like she's an assassin. These are not team fight ultimates. Just look at positioning. Again, positioning. They can't do anything because they're way back here. So by you trying to do something up here, and by the way, you missed the priority target, but that's an assassin play. And then this is an assassin play. Your positioning is terrible here. You're suiciding. That's all this is. This is suicide, but it's partially your team's fault. All things considered, though, you don't even want to be looking for that based off of these scores and these builds. Once your ultimate was whiffed, you definitely won it out. You could have looked into it for sure whenever you had your ult, but you needed your team to be positioning up with you. And now you don't have your ult to set up for Skarner, and that's literally all you really have. Whimsy and your ultimate to set up for Skarner's ult. Skarner, you need to be building Righteous Glory, which you do have at this point. Okay. You're not paying attention to its health. You went in way too early. You even had a ward for that. That was a very poor attempt at a steal, and I don't mean... That sounds really mean whenever I say this, but you had vision on it. You didn't have to stay for it. Right? Do you see how you back off here? You're watching its health, and then you start going in. You don't need to go in yet. It's at 4,800 health. You need to wait for this TP. You need to wait for your team. And you know that this is only a steal attempt and not a team fight because you don't have your Orianna and she doesn't have her ult. You needed to wait this out. Because you can't team fight this. You can't team fight it because you have no numbers here. It was only a steal attempt. And how did this even become a thing, right? This became a thing because Orianna ulted, missed her ultimate, and had to back. That's why this whole thing happened. So this play, this Baron, this... whatever happens after this, is because of an Orianna near-death experience and this wannabe team fight. You didn't need this team fight. And you already had an opportunity to go for Baron this game. But instead you went for these two turrets, which by the way are still alive. I think it was unnecessary for Jax to be looking back onto that to peel, but it was nice of you. I think you could have been looking to try and kill some of the people doing Baron, but you probably would have died for it. So overall, I think that you did the right play by going back to peel. I'm just greedy bastard, I guess. This is definitely what you want to do. You know they're recalling. Getting what you can afterwards is always a good idea. You need to leave. You're staying too long. You die because you stayed too long. So, you've definitely lost these turrets, regardless of what Jax does. So I agree with Jax being down here. In fact, by Jax pushing these turrets, maybe not by flashing, but by pushing these turrets, you need to keep pushing. You need to keep pushing, because one of the ways you respond to pressure is by creating pressure. Yeah. That is exactly what you do. I saw Jax stopped his recall. Because you definitely have lost this. You've already lost this. By the time you would have gotten back to base, you would have lost that. And again, you recalling there literally changed nothing. You could have gotten another turret. I would have stayed for that turret for sure, because they're all going to get away. And even if you killed some of them, you're not going to get anything after that. You had your opportunity to get something, but you based. And now you're chasing down for nothing. There's nothing on the map. And now you're getting chased down. No, you're not. Okay, good. So Jax, you're very indecisive with what you want to do. You stayed for a wave, then you ended up recalling, and I would have stayed all the way to create pressure over here. You definitely would have been able to get this turret, and you still would have lost this inhibitor and nothing else. I guarantee that's what would have happened. You still probably would have also gotten the Rise kill. You were unnecessary to recall here. What was lost was still going to be lost just because of the nature of this play. You had already lost one of your team members, so you didn't want this fight because then it would have been the same thing at the Baron, right? With Skarner going in without his whole team, it would have been the same thing. One of the ways you respond to pressure is by creating pressure. So then, in this alternate reality, you take this turret and they take the inhibitor and are looking to start ending the game. Well, you keep pushing. And then they start needing to recall because they're not going to get both of these turrets because the team over here, blue team, is playing pretty safe but also poking them off and clearing waves. So then they really want to recall. So then blue team starts slowly chasing and poking them off with, Kog'Maw ultimate so they can't recall. And then you get an inhibitor for an inhibitor. Now that's a big stretch of an alternate reality, but it is an option. It's something that could happen. And believe me, it does happen. Instead, you recall and you get an assist on the Ryze kill. And that's it. That's it. No, it's worth more than an assist on a Ryze kill? A fucking turret. Lulu, you're doing a lot of very aggressive vision clearing on your own. You probably die a lot doing this. Maybe not in this game, but that seems like a habit of yours. You're doing very aggressive vision clearing, and you can get picked doing that. Do you notice how many people get fucking right next to you here? All Jarvan has to do, right, is EQ this, maybe R it, and then you flash away. Okay, so maybe you flash away from that. But that's burning your flash for nothing. That's a 5-minute cooldown for like a 1-minute cooldown. That's not worth it. You don't need to be doing this. And they're just going to put that vision right back. You're not denying any vision by sweeping this. And if you're trying to put this vision down, are you actually going to contest this dragon? Jax is up here. This vision isn't going to allow you to contest anything. It's aggressive, unnecessary vision. You're not defending anything. You're not controlling anything. You're not setting up for any plays because nothing's going to happen over there. It's an unnecessary risk. Where was that aggressive positioning in lane? Come on, man. This is a pretty bad team fight, and it's again because of positioning. They're able to collapse on one side of the fight before a flank happens, and they have all 5 in the middle. This isn't truly a flank because they're collapsing on one side of it. And if they collapse back now, then they have a look at this fight right now, right? It's a 4v2 in this direction. If they wanted to go on here, and by the way, the important cooldowns have already been blown. The W from Orianna, the E from Jax. And on this side of the fight, it's a support and a tank and a stunned Kog'Maw. And remember how I was talking about 25 minutes? This is Kog'Maw's highlight strength of the game, basically. Okay. I didn't like that fight, but it worked out a lot better than I thought, because I expected them to turn onto this side of the fight instead of going in here and just use the Jarvan and flash out, basically. If they had just used this as a barrier to keep the Kog'Maw out of the fight, they would have won this easily. However, they end up staying into this and playing onto the tanks for half of the fight. They play onto the Skarner and just eat Kog'Maw damage. but they really should have been playing into this part of the fight. So they misplayed this fight. I think that this was a really aggressive play, but Jax diving the Jinx was probably exactly what needed to be done here. And Kog'Maw just autoing the tanks. If you're allowed to do that, then great. Orianna playing like an assassin again. That is not a team fight ult, that's an assassin ult. You're going to need probably at least 3 people to stay for this because they still have their 2 carries alive, but you do need people to recall, so just Jax recalling should be fine. Think you're going to be in time for this. It's a hunk of damage, but you're in time for it. There's not really a reason for them to be grouped mid right now. I would be expecting this rotation. They're probably all going top. You end up using your TP to get out. Okay. They're probably just going to stay for the top turret, so that's not really a problem for you. As Jax, I would be staying bottom right now, trying to get that next turret. But you, again, don't have TP, so maybe you made the right call. You know, you definitely made the right call to be coming up, because when Baron's up, you need to be present for it. This is a team fight ult, Orianna. That is a team fight ult. That's what you want to be looking for. Not an assassin ult, those ults. Very good fight. Jax definitely made the right call by returning to this fight, because if you had stayed over bot lane, you would have been giving up Baron control, and you needed to be present for this. And since you caught the pick out mid, that was all very well done. Very well done. You do have an okay opportunity to be looking for Baron here. You need a pink to do it, though. I don't think any of you have one. No, you do have some in your inventory. I would have been looking for that pretty much immediately, even if it had meant that we didn't get this turret. Yeah, let's look back at that. Because you had some death timers up still. Yeah. So a miscommunication for starters with like who's going to tank this, or if anyone's going to tank this. Then again, Lulu, you're not autoing the turret. That's why this is so awkward in the future. And it gets away with like 1 health. Lulu, you need to use your auto attacks. I guess I probably would have stayed for that turret too, even though you did just get 2 kills. It looked like you should have been able to take that turret a lot faster. Part of the reason you guys weren't able to take it that fast is because of positioning. Skarner is going in, but then look at all the autos he does to this turret. 2. That was 2 autos. Now let's look at Jax. How many autos do you do to the turret? 1, 2. 2. Okay, so we got another 2. Now let's look at Lulu. How many autos does Lulu do on the turret? 1. Alright, we got a new record, I think 1. The reason the turret stays alive so long, which denies you a Baron opportunity, is because no one focuses it. There were 2 people on your team attacking this turret. And what happened because of that? Now don't pay attention to anything except for your team's health bars. right? Let's watch some health bars. Do you see all of that damage? All of that damage came from while you guys were hitting the turret. And by hitting the turret, Jax hit it twice, Skarner hit it twice, Lulu hit it once. You guys could have taken this turret pretty easily, or if you don't want to attack the turret, go for Baron. Now, if you go for Baron here, the reason that Baron's kind of risky at this point is because you don't have a whole lot of engage anymore. You've already used it. You know, Shirelles is on cooldown. Orianna's ultimate's still on cooldown, or would be whenever you were doing this. If you had skipped the turret and went over here, it would be on cooldown. So you would have the same kind of problem that you were having over here, of them doing a lot of damage to you guys. If you went early enough, you would have been able to make it to the Jarvan, wouldn't be there because he would have been too low and would have had to have recalled, or he would have been trading his life for this, which still would have been potentially worth it, but, you know, you could have potentially killed him too. So you guys really need to work on your sieging abilities. You should have had that turret and ended much healthier. This is a pretty okay time to be over here. You need a pink on it. You did just put a pink on it. You saw the Ornn was bottom. He's still bottom. You're looking aggressively onto the... I like how you ult him. I do. I would immediately just go for the Baron and not chase for any kills. Immediately just go for the Baron. Yep. There's no reason to be positioning on that side of the Baron, and there's no reason she should have been able to steal that. Yeah, you guys having those sieging problems again. And see, Jinx does outscale. And that's the game. Okay, biggest problems that I noticed here is Skarner, you waste a lot of time, your pathing needs a lot of work. Lulu, you need to use your auto attacks, you need to position better in lane. Kog'Maw, you need to work on your aggression. Lulu, you also need to work on your aggression. Kog'Maw and Lulu both have different elements of warding they need to work on. For Kog'Maw, it's using your wards. For Lulu, it's whenever you're invading, or not invading, but trying to get vision control, you take unnecessary risks by thinking, not thinking about what you're going to do with it, just thinking that you need it. Mid lane, you're very late to react to any sort of team play, like showing up to the top lane dive that I was kind of toying with, the idea, or the red buff, or even to show up to try and kill the Jarvan, or to show up down here to kill the Jarvan. Very slow to react to everything that's happening on the map. Your wave control is okay. Your posturing in the wave is mediocre. Your ultimate, you had a flashy ult, pun intended, but also bad sort of pun. I don't think that was necessary. You also use your ult like an assassin way too often. Orianna, the best part of her ult is honestly the crowd control it brings. It's kind of like, if you're looking for an AoE ult, why not just play Vel'Koz, right? Vel'Koz ult it does a lot of damage. But what's the main difference? Orianna's ultimate has crowd control. That is literally, that is the main difference. And what's the best thing you can do? Like, whenever you see an Alistar pulverize, right? It's a play when it hits multiple people. You don't expect it to burst them. You expect it to knock them up. Orianna is not an assassin. She's a utility champion. You pick her for the crowd control. Skarner, I honestly didn't like the pick as a whole. Your approach to some fights was really good. Like, specifically the first one that I pointed out that was good, where you did get this flank off. Your ganking over this wall was also good, but I don't think that you should have won this fight. The one that was at the Dragon that I saw the two over here, the Orion and the Jax coming from behind. I don't think you should have won that fight. Your pathing down the river was also really aggressive, and you were trading onto the Janna when she still had everything. So overall, I would say you need to start thinking about your engages more and thinking about the map a lot more. Specifically with things like what kind of counter jungling you can do, because you ignored the golem vision that the Jax got you, and you also were really shy about going for buffs, like the blue buff you could have stolen instead of doing your red, right? Remember that? So whenever you see him, you don't know, you don't, it's not that you don't know, you just don't do anything with that knowledge. You also, again, waste so much time. Pathing, time wasting, have no focus on counter jungling and very little team play whenever it includes things like your top lane gank that, did you, yeah, you ganked top, but you needed to be working a lot more with the vision he got, and like playing within the jungle with your team. Jax, my biggest kind of fear is how you try and show up to a lot, or rather, this indecisiveness that you had down here. You should have been able to stay for at least this turret. Your trading patterns in lane could get you into trouble, but you did have your jungler showing up for it. So if your jungler is going to be playing towards the top side like he was pretty early, then it's totally fine. Because that aggression is healthy for top lane. It's just you need to make sure you're doing it at good windows. And the way the wave was, it would have been a bad window. It would have been a bad window. You also look for this deeper vision, and again, your team doesn't do anything with it. That includes you, and the reason you leave is because your wave was getting pushed in, so I understand that. And you do play team fights pretty well as Jax. Again, I don't know a whole lot about top lane, so I wasn't watching the matchup or any type of trading advice or anything like that. AD carry, you do need to review those windows to trade that I went over. That's going to be crucial to climbing for you. Your positioning in team fights is okay. I think that you were gifted a lot of your positioning. But again, you weren't getting caught. Part of your cautious play helped, I guess, with that. But you had tanks dive you, but not focus you. They were focusing someone right in front of you every time. So you were kind of gifted your positioning. So I didn't really get to look at that. You practically were standing still, autoing, and they were just letting it happen. So that's not kiting or positioning. That's just you being gifted that. Lulu, I wasn't watching too much of your team fight either. I don't think that team fights are a very crucial element because those are like small mechanical things that are going to vary too much. It's the fight that you choose to take that is something that doesn't vary that much. It's the strategy and the choices you make that don't vary. Because if you make a smart decision, it's going to always be there. Team fights, you're going to have to play slightly differently every time, and a piece of advice I give you might not be applicable in every situation. Like Jax diving here was a great idea, but at the same time, he peeled over here, right? So his role was different in both of these fights. Neither of them were wrong, though. And that just shows you, if I give team fighting advice with little nuanced things, it's not going to be as helpful. Things like trading and just to open your mind to what to look for. It's not something that, of course, is going to work in every window, because you don't want to trade an auto with a Draven with his spinning axe the same as you would trade one auto with a Vayne, right? Well, anyway, that's going to be the end of this review. I hope some of that was helpful, and I guess I'm sorry for your loss.